Well, the Wii scandal should be picking up in relevance now, as Pierre Poilievre has basically just caught the Kielburgers committing perjury. However, it looks like it's not really going to go anywhere. Yes, it's a clear violation of the law. Yes, perjury was the biggest thing under the Trump administration. Had Donald Trump done this, CBC would cover this for the next, 47 years or so. But it looks like, yes, we have proof. We finally caught them. But the media doesn't really care. And it looks like the Conservative Party insiders don't really care either, which is kind of the state of the world these days. Now, what you should know is, if you haven't seen the Pierre Poilievre clip about the big 4-minute one, he basically asked the Kielburgers if they had sort of a relationship with Ben Chin, who was, used to be Bill Morneau's right-hand man. Now he's a senior advisor to Justin Trudeau, so, a part of the PMO. And they said no instance, and then he actually pulled up the messages going between them in LinkedIn, basically Craig Kielburger thanking Ben Chin for setting up the government program, and then, Ben Chin responding like, basically, no problem, it was great. Then claiming that they had nothing to do with each other, and then he tried to claim, that LinkedIn message was sent by my executive assistant, and it was just a message sent to add people on LinkedIn. Pierre Poilievre clearly showed that is a lie. So they've caught the Kielburgers pretty much 99% perjury here, and this could be a major thing. However, this is not where the sort of establishment or the mainstream media want to take this story. So they've recognized that it has to be sort of a wee scandal. But if you watch the CBC coverage, which I did, which was less than 2 minutes on this whole thing, more time was spent on the Indian farmer thing, the Khalistani nonsense, and diversity at the Oscars. These were more important stories to the CBC than a major government scandal. What they are covering on the Kielburgers is basically, they did less than 2 minutes. It was like a minute and 55 seconds or so. And most of it was basically, saying the Kielburgers side, but then they sort of got into some of the corruption, and the corruption they're going to focus on is that on the Wii scandal. Of the Wii charity itself, and their conducting and their ethics, not anything to do with the government stuff. Basically how they raise money for people to name a school after themselves and help the kids, and they put a plaque up there and then they take it down and do it for the next person. There are stories of people saying different charities where you go and build schools for disadvantaged people. What they do is it's basically a trip for upper middle class, teenagers, right? Where they build the village, you feel really good, you leave, they knock it down, then the next group comes and builds the same village for the locals, and they knock it down, and there's sort of a tourist, charity economy. And this is basically what the Wii charity is, we've learned. So this is what they're going to focus on, and this is a lot like the New York Governor Cuomo thing, right? Where the real scandal here, yes, that is a scandal, that's shady ethics. But the real scandal here is how they got a single source contract from the government. There was no competing bids. They way overpaid for it, and they had been financially linked to the people who had got the single source contract from. So this is corruption, right? This is embezzlement. This is funneling money. This is political dark money. They were running basically campaign ads for Trudeau. They were sending money to Trudeau's family. Trudeau was then sending money back to them. It was a highly unethical charity being used as a political slush fund. That is the major scandal. Now, what we are focusing on in the media is basically, look, we wasn't doing as charitable as this stuff. So the claim of the Kielburgers are basically saying, we're political roadkill. To an extent, it's kind of true on the CBC stuff, on the ancillary stuff. For this, how they conduct their business, the media's going to just sacrifice some of the political altar for that. But the real scandal is that fact that they were a political slush fund, not a charity. And it's fascinating the Conservatives aren't going after that aspect. Pierre Poilievre is, and some of the people in, but, ultimately it's on Aaron O'Toole to push the narrative. And he did share a Pierre Poilievre video yesterday, but the one he shared was about the money they gave to Justin Trudeau, which, again, kind of is the issue. But the real issue is they've sort of caught them in perjury and corruption, and, O'Toole is not really pushing this. And this sort of raises a lot of questions in political circles, because it's do you want to dismantle corruption, or do you just want to punch the Liberals? And this is a lot of fears people have about Aaron O'Toole. And, it's kind of coming to the forefront now that Aaron O'Toole has a history of threatening to blackmail Pierre Poilievre, as I reported, and I actually saw the text messages and reported it, from the people on O'Toole's campaign. They did claim to have threatened Pierre Poilievre to prevent him from running. And then he did demote him off Finance Critic, which is amazing because Pierre Poilievre is technically the most successful opposition critic in Canadian history, because he actually got the actual finance minister axed or to resign because of his hectoring. So it is this very weird thing where Erin O'Toole is a leader, so he has the ability to actually push Canadian narrative. This is one of his powers as opposition leader. You saw the initial SNC Lavalin Week charity. Andrew Scheer had the ability to sort of make statements and have the media cover it, whereas Erin O'Toole has the ability to an extent to set the narrative here, and he's actively choosing not to, which is questionable. I don't understand it from any point of view. Yes, you might want messaging of whatever, but like, this is a point for Erin O'Toole to expose widespread political corruption within the PMO. And by him not doing it raises questions of what does he want to do with his prime minister's office if he gets elected. So what you need to know is Pierre Poilievre showed evidence that the Kielburgers had committed perjury under oath. That in itself is extra criminal behavior. And yes, we do have the fact that it's a fake charity, basically exploiting people under the name of free the children. Now it's cultish nonsense. But the media's scandal is going to focus on, oh, look, they weren't really that good of a charity. Instead of, oh my God, they're a political slush fund for the Trudeaus. That's the real scandal. Yes, that's also a scandal that they were acting unethically as a charity. That's most charities, right? But the real scandal is the fact that they were single source contract and a political slush fund for the Liberals. That will be ignored because then that implies that something can be done about these massive political slush funds that are rampant throughout Canada. I mean, the amount of dark money and dirty money going into our politics is obscene, so much higher than the Americans because of our supposed laws to stop this have made it so much worse. But that's basically what you need to know for the day. The WE scandal has gotten exponentially worse, but for some reason we are not hearing about it, and that is a failure of leadership on O'Toole's part, and it's also large-scale corruption within the mainstream media like the CBC, which decided to cover the Calistani nonsense more than Canadian politics.